Hello, wonderful people. This is your boy Hollywood Truth back again with some more information. We're going to pivot a little bit from some of the D&I stuff into conversating about love, loving yourself, loving your person, building intimacy and understanding that. And there's another video out there called Intimacy, the Real Truth. But understanding this conversation, these are things I failed at times and had to build that equity over time and figure out who I was again. So the book itself, Power of the Flower, it talks a little bit about my story as a very young man and trying to figure out how to navigate and deal with, very old women at that time compared to me, and what that companionship felt like or really meant to me moving forward became the course that I had to figure out. And in the process of that, I learned a lot of things that most people don't talk about that are involved in it. And it's also a lot of things that everybody talks about all the time, but just doesn't stay true to in their relationships. So the goal at the end of the day is always to fall in love with you first. Right? I don't care how many times you have to redo that. And that's what people don't think. Oh, I love who I am. You can say that sometimes and not feel it. So you have to make sure that you're reciprocating what's necessary so that you feel like you are always falling in love with you. Because it allows you to understand which parts of you are open to have worked on, right? Which parts of you have to be accountable about. But you can't continue to let people take pieces from you that you can't get back. And that's the struggle when we move on to another relationship. So the you that's in love with you will make better decisions, right? Think about the future and why and what is really important to you when it comes to relationships and intimacy. If you do not understand who you are intimately, it will be impossible to be who someone needs you to be. And to really kind of grind through that feeling of what intimacy is truly supposed to be with your person. Now, prior relationships a lot of times do not, they allow us to set boundaries. But you have to make sure that those boundaries are not overwhelming. Because it's okay to learn from prior relationships and build on your expectations beyond that. But you have to own your part too, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. It can't always be one person. And if it is abundantly, then your build to who you need to be is a lot less than others. Because you have no regrets about your efforts in that relationship and the work that you put in. But if you do, then there is blame there as well. And instead of blaming, let's just get to know each other better so that one or two things can't make or break our relationship. Some of us, we jump into a new relationship before they're even out of love from the prior. Whether it's we weren't ready to be, whatever it may be, if that's the case, then that's okay. But don't jump into another one. Because you're already building expectations that are not going to happen at the end of the day. You want a new. You don't want an old. If you have to rebuild the old person to feel good again, then that tells you how much they damaged you in the beginning. You're allowing yourself to fall into a trap of looking for the best attributes from the old love and putting the pressure on the new one. Right? You overall it didn't work, and you realize that it might have been toxic and you needed to walk away, but there's so much that they did give in certain areas of the relationship. So what you want to do is piecemeal that together. Right? Hopefully they have all of this stuff that I didn't want from that person, but they need to keep all of these things too. Doesn't work that way, ladies and gents. Along with you wanting everything else that the prior love did not provide, as I said. So not just the pressure of doing things good that they did good, but then making up for all the downfalls that were there as well. That kind of ask in a new relationship will break it before it starts. Too much pressure on the next person is a build for disaster or disappointment. because they just realize that being two different people and themselves still isn't going to be enough for that person. Always remember, you cannot love someone else that does not allow you to love yourself either. And that's an important factor here. I'm saying, but a lot of us want to love ourselves, and we find ourselves so committal to compromise and being the person that does everything the right way, or trying to be that person, even if it's not being reciprocated by your partner. At some point, what can you do? See, to me, if I love someone that I know loves themselves more than anything, then I am confident in that person, in that relationship. Not worried that she may run off or go and do something somewhere else, or not want to be that. It's my job to continue to build that sustainability. But I want that confidence. I want that strength. I want that understanding that if tomorrow it's just you, you're not concerned about the steps that need to be taken, and you're strong enough to take those steps on your own, regardless of the outcome. When we build the strength of our person, we build ourselves as well. Don't be scared of what might happen. You should be excited about it, because when your person truly knows who they are, they're going to be more excited about what's next. You know, if you don't allow them to love themselves, it's a huge reminder of how selfish that lover may be. They want you to look good. They want you to take care of yourself. Allow you to spoil yourself. You spoil yourself. Allow them to spoil you in some way. Find that happy medium. No matter what your accomplishments are, no matter how much you succeed, it should not overlay that other person, because the reality is you didn't get there without them. And they need to understand how important they are to your success and what's next for you, because it's really what's next for us. Do not rebound, right? Reassess. Take the time just to kind of figure out what happened. Take the time to internalize it a little bit. What your mistakes might have been, what you can work on, but also what you're not going to put up with again either. Right? Because allowing mistakes to happen over and over again then becomes your blame and not the person who's doing it. Do not allow yourself to have regrets at the end of a relationship. Own them, work on them, but don't allow yourself to think that you're not, worthy of true love again. You cannot change your past, but you can change your thinking while building your future. Do not lose what you've always wanted based on what you used to have. You can still set aspirations and think big just because you realized you did everything you could in another scenario and it didn't work. Don't deplete your efforts. Stay strong in love and what you really want, and that perfect peace will find you. That strength will find you. And some of us never understand our true strength until we find our equivalent. Not the baddest and the best that everybody else says is there, or that's out there. Your equivalent, which is going to be different for everybody. But when you know and you find it, you know. Remember, the ability to support your person comes from how you can support yourself. So you can't be a good support system for your family if you don't feel like you're in the right place. If you're not getting the love that you need or the love that you deserve, being expected to give it with all the spirit nature is tough. It's like you're fighting one against the other. The ability to connect with someone when they're new, it takes shaking off the prior loss and reconnecting to yourself and what you really want moving forward. Right? Career, children, more children, schooling, home, where you live, likes, dislikes, chores around the house, all of these things build a connection if you do it the right way. Remember, intimacy is far from just the bedroom. Right? It's how you connect and love your person for the other 16 hours of the day. that at the end of it makes it an intimate moment, right? The way you connected all day, that intimacy draws into the bedroom then. You don't hit the bedroom and then go, oh boy, I'm ready now. You go up in there thinking differently. And again, as we grow, the things that are more important and the ways to connect are the things that we have to focus on as we turn into the people that we want to be for the rest of our lives and truly round about and round into form and what we can accomplish and be our best at it and have the best partner to be able to do it. All of those things have to happen here first. They don't happen once a relationship starts. We don't take the time to heal and rebuild to be the best that we can be before we can be the best partner for someone else. We've got to get to our place first. Be fair to yourself. Because again, a relationship doesn't work if you're not aware that you're broken or that there are areas that you need to feel better or to be treated differently. It's okay to talk about those things out loud early in a relationship so it's understood. Because if someone breaks the rules a year later, they have that whole year to say you never said anything about it. Stop thinking the next guy or girl is going to do the same thing. Right? Give them a chance to show you that they are different or to show you who they truly are. Shouldn't have to be to show you they're different, but that all depends on the type of person you were with. Comparing relationships is a lose-lose battle. He is sweeter than my ex, but he's better in bed. He used to cook a whole lot, but this one likes to do the chore. There's always, if you build echelons based on the people doing the tasks, you're always going to compare. If you base it on what you want and those tasks mirroring yours and your aspirations for the future, then it all makes sense. Prior relationships, as I said, they can allow you to set boundaries, but make sure that those boundaries don't overwhelm your new partner. And you can learn from prior relationships and build on those expectations because you're owning yours and willing to build on them as well. There is truth in trends though, right? And we always see them coming, especially if we've already been there and we've been through it. If someone is showing you something that you're not okay with and have been through before, it's okay to see the red lights. It's okay to see the flags and decide that, we either need to stop this early on or have a real conversation at the end of the day. A lot of people allow prior mistakes of their own or their previous partners to deny the promise of their future. Why are a few relationships going to be the be-all, end-all? I mean, everybody deserves love. If you can't have all the other things that we all like to have and the tangible things that we can say, look what we... Love is one of those things that each and every one of us want. Some of us yell it out loud, some of us won't say it at all, but we do. And because with that love comes trust, respect, loyalty, all of the other intangibles that we feel are important too. Falling back in the same trap. And this is about not reassessing, right? If you go back to the prior love because you've not taken the time to realize your plight, will the same thing come to fruition? If you're still blinded by the love that you were in, but you know that's not where you were supposed to be, then why are you still there? What are you holding on to, and what's it going to take for you to feel strong enough to make that move and show and prove that you are going to get stronger regardless, especially if you have the support that's necessary? Allowing what you want to get in the way of what you need, right? By allowing loneliness to curb your growth. It doesn't mean that things are going to change drastically. It doesn't mean that they'll start doing that thing that you like all the time or showing the support in ways that they need to all the time. But they cannot challenge themselves with it if you're not honest. If you feel a certain way, be honest about it. You're still open to compromise, but you can't all of a sudden hate something and then realize that your partner's supposed to go along with it. It's the conversations we have in between at the end of the day that make sense. For a lot, and I've talked about this in the intimacy video, falling into a great sex situation. I mean, listen, sex is like sports. Even the best players, they're going to have off nights. It can be as disappointing as it is great, especially when you set your expectations and you don't know. It can put you in a situation where it weighs heavy on the relationship, right? We don't get married for sex. So why would it impact our marriage so much? Why would it impact the relationship? By the time you get ready to put those rings on, you're where you need to be sexually, or you still understand it. Should you challenge yourself a little bit as time goes on? Yes. Never allow it to get stale, but it shouldn't be a make or break when you're at a point where you've been in relationships and you realize where the strength is in one. Think about removing that barrier and focusing on how to connect with someone. Become friends, share stories, and then let the sex be the icing on the cake. Right? Because when you connect in an intimate way like that, your body is calling for it. You don't have to try to figure out whether she wants it or not, or find that spot. It's, okay, this man has been attentive, supportive, protective. This is a day over day thing. Or woman. Because their strength is unheard at times. They're behind the scenes taking care of all of the things that we need them to so that we can stay in front, and vice versa. But it's your strength. And if you don't understand it or comprehend it, then nobody else will either. Fellas, as you get older, think about, that thing doesn't work the way it used to. And there's nothing almighty that's going to save you or solve for specific moments that you're not on your A game. Stamina isn't what it used to be. Ladies' bodies aren't as flexible as they used to be, or, a little less limber than you used to be. So, just being tossed around the room and taking those bumps and bruises, it's a little more brutal to you than it was fun back in the day. Right? All the changes that continue to occur, we have to be real about those things. Because if we start blaming the people that we love for their imperfections or things that you feel are becoming imperfections, then we are tearing them apart piece by piece as well. There are other ways to get to that happy place. And if you take time to spend all the time you can in those areas and just continually to bless your woman, is the word that I like to use without sounding too nasty or freaky. Just bless your man or woman in a way that nobody else can. And that doesn't always mean tricks and things that people tell you about. It means you know them better than anyone else does. Find ways to circumvent arguments and combos by already understanding that and continuing to set a pulse on where you need to be and what you need to get better at. There is not a day that goes by that I don't ask myself how I can be a better leader, how I can be a better father, grandfather, a better husband, a better son. Those are goals. And if we're not open to those, then we're not trying to fulfill who we are in totality. We're just trying to make sure that we ride through life in the most comfortable experiences. So don't get caught up in looking for the best sex. And if it is one from prior, it's probably not the same. Or again, you're in a group calling that out instead of realizing that, okay, when I was with that person, I kind of wasn't on my plate either. I wasn't going in the direction I needed to. But at the end of the night, it was good. What did you accomplish outside of there? If you can accomplish more outside of the bedroom than you can in, you have a starting place. You have a foundation to build. And continuing to build on that is just going to make it stronger. Pieces fall, you build it back up. In a lot of cases, you get so caught up in the sex part, you realize, even if it is happening all of the time, I'm missing the connection. Right? Where is that connection that we need? Because connecting in parts of the relationship means that only part of it is really a relationship. The big point here is, and again, in the book, I talk about a lot of the intangibles that are really important in a relationship and how you can impact each other in those ways. But there are a million ways to love someone, especially your person. Don't count on one to make or break your relationship. Find it. Find that other piece. Our ability to perceive what's real at times is based on our experiences. Finding a way to be vulnerable again. Knocking down walls. Making sure the prior does not ruin the idea of love moving forward. You can't just put your partner together like Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, right? I'll take this piece and I like the lips and, we'll put that butt on. You can't make or break it. Like if you become that vain where you need to check 10 boxes, then love is at a distance anyway. We all have our wants at the end of the day, so I can understand that, and there's some vain in all of us, but you can't build your person not from scratch and not from previous parts of other people building on to the new person. It's just going to put those same blinders back up for you. Looks, build, smart is not a piecemeal. Right? You can't build your favorite person. There's only one perfect piece to everybody's puzzle. It may not work for 10 other people, but for that person, it's the perfect piece. This is why I stress falling in love with you again before getting into another relationship. So you don't fall into traps or put yourself in a vulnerable state. We want to be vulnerable, but we have to be careful as well. And if someone breaks you a certain way, you got to make sure that those pieces are back together before you can try to walk out the door and start something new. Get rid of the barriers and the walls, because you'll build more at some point. Pay attention to those, how those treat, their families. How do they treat their mothers? How do they treat their fathers? How do they treat their sisters or brothers? It's going to give you a bit of an indication, right? Men and women, they'll tell us exactly who they are and if we are falling in love. But they always do so with their eyes wide open. And we should. Right? We joke about kissing and the closing the eyes, but when you're keep your eyes open. Don't miss those things that can make your person's day better. Don't start taking for granted because they live the right way. They're not going anywhere or they're not doing anything. Court as if it was the first time you saw them and got turned down on that date, which is what happened to me. But you still decided based on who they were and what they stood for, and the beauty and the booty, that's who you want. That's what you want to build on. Not, oh man, she looks great. I get that. But internally, that pretty has to be there too. Because that's the pretty that's going to come reciprocate to you as their person on a regular basis. The rest of it, you will get so used to, that face will become the norm to you. You still want to give compliments. You still want to make sure they understand how you feel about them. But it's truly about the connection. That touch that they've never had before. That focus on making sure that they feel good before you're worried about what's next for you. It's a different kind of protection at the end of the day. A lot of people allow prior mistakes of their own or their previous partners to deny the promise of their future. Resist those who just lust for you. It will just complicate what's real and what will not be. This comes from being so comfortable with that person or loneliness. There could be frustration with the thought of starting a new relationship. Women are honest when they're hurt, but frustrated when they do not feel heard. Think about your kids. Regardless of how we feel about what they're upset about, we still implore ourselves to understand and support them. Now help me understand why you would not treat the woman, wife, or child's mother the same. Men, we're a little more brutally honest. We wait until we're completely over it and lash out. Thinking about being direct or loud will change things. That approach just infuriates your partner. And let's be honest, nothing is ever solved during an argument. Reality is that if it was solved, it's after cooler heads prevailed and both were in a calmer state and wanted to have that conversation. Don't try to turn them into someone else, or they're going to think you no longer like who they are. Asking them to build, setting expectations is okay, but if you don't like the person you're with right out of the gate, they're not going to like them either. If you settled for limitations in the past, then talk about those in your next relationship. If nothing else, they'll be at least honest in some sort of compromise there. You cannot fault someone for those limitations a year in and expect them, to understand it or to work with you. Right? It's like telling somebody in a year that you don't want kids, but you never talked about it before. So expectation without conversation is one of the leading reasons for breakups. Honesty up front will allow you to make the same mistakes, but fail forward at least, because you deserve to succeed. If you don't allow people, if you do not allow that, then people will tend to get tempted and want to find those bits and pieces in other places, or that intimacy that they feel that they need from others, even if it's just a good conversation that doesn't happen because we don't think that that's important anymore. Like it or not, we all get older, we lose some sort of functionability, flexibility, etc. If sex again is your most important asset of intimacy, then you are bound to be disappointed at some point. When you're tempted or you feel like you deserve more, talk to the person you love. You will feel safer, more vulnerable, more open with someone that loves you. Do not end up left with that one-trick pony, realizing that you had a queen that gave you everything that you needed. Because all you'll end up with is 99 other problems, and sex won't be one of them, but it'll be a lot of other things. For the youngsters that are trying to figure out how to treat women, think of the respect you give your mother, sisters and grandmothers, as I said earlier. Talk to them, and vice versa for young women with good example of men in their lives. I had 2 daughters in high school and a mother I adored. It made me live the world of what if, right? All of us strong men, we like to say, well, it's not going to happen to mine. I won't let it happen to my daughter or son. Listen, there are a lot of things out here that can tempt others. We want to live in the world of thinking that we can always protect them and keep them from other people doing things, and that's not the reality. Right? The reality is to live in a world of, if you do that to a woman or if you do that to a man, how would you feel if that was your mother or your daughter? I tried to keep it as uncomplicated as possible with the way I treated women and the way I tried to be an example with the women that I was with, or the way I treated my mother, so that my kids understood that that was something that was consistent and something that was important and always will be. I raised 4 young women, so some have had tough relationships along the way. And I tried to set an example for them of how a man should treat a woman, so that they, if nothing else, understand that I'm not setting a bad example and allowing them to fall into a trap of thinking that it's a good one. And instead of being the most powerful dad in the world that can protect your child from everything, focus more on being that guy. When we have children or we decide that's something we're going to do, we become a permanent example of what should be done and how to do it the right way. And if you're not willing to take that onus, then you shouldn't do it. But my girls really allowed me to think about, okay, well, what if that was my daughter? What if I said that to, somebody said that to my mother? So it was easy as the golden rule to me at the end of the day. Do the right things. Live in a world again of love and understanding that there's conflict there as well, but being a good example was something that was important to me, right? You have to be the man at all times that you want your daughter or someone to be with. That's your obligation as a parent, to be that example at all times, so that your men and women or young men and women understand the attributes that they should be looking for, and the understanding that their strength is what's most important before they move into a relationship. opening doors, pulling out chairs. You know, if it makes you soft, so be it. To me, soft is the man who makes his woman do it. Cannibalizing, and this is a message for everybody, cannibalizing all men and women based on your experiences will nullify your ability to be vulnerable enough again, to find the right person, or worse, scare the good ones away with your tirades. So you always know the thorough single men and women. They're in love with themselves. They love their lives. They know when they're ready. And when they are, they'll take that plunge. They don't complain about being single. They understand that they're loving them for now. And it's okay to take some time to love yourself when you've been with other people that didn't love you the way you were supposed to be. Only person that's going to do it full tilt is you. Single, married, girlfriend or boy, whatever it is, it's still about you finding ways to love you. You know, beware of the ones that chant being single while exposing the other side, you know, and calling men out, because that shows that they're just not happy with themselves. And I don't know if that's the right climb beyond just being broken to some degree. Do not let the prior people from relationships have the power to get in the way of the love you truly deserve. Just continue to believe in the possibility of love. Not just the love you want, but sometimes you end up getting the love and intimacy you didn't even know was possible. Just because you fall in and out of love with others, it's a prediction that you can fall out of love with yourself, or allow someone to make you feel so defeated you have to figure out a way to fall in love again with the person you should love the most. You. Revive your heart, mind, and soul before you give it away again. It all has to be there because that next person deserves it, even if the other person didn't. If you're interested about a real approach to relationships, grab a copy of the book, talk through it. There's a lot of other books out there. Again, I don't deem myself, a top writer. I deem myself a guy that has the equity to have these combos based on experiences, longevity, life, mistakes, failing forward, never giving up on love, even in the worst circumstances. Equity, folks. Equity is all you need to tell a story. Hopefully, success at the end of it, right? So it becomes a guideline for others or helps them get to where they want to be. But I say this because experience gives you the equity to talk out loud and rewrite your story if you need to. I don't want people to think that I'm just a guy that's spewing things out here and haven't done the homework that was necessary or lived the life to be able to educate others or talk about it a little bit. But before I was 10 years old, I had experiences with grown women. The things I did with those women would curb how I grew up sexually. High school gets confusing as a young fella like that because getting to second base was a historic moment for some in high school, but for me, it wasn't even close to an accomplishment or what I was used to. Good, bad, or indifferent. How do you go from grown woman who wants it all and was willing to teach to young girls and the patience and respect that it takes to deal with them? It talks about how my experience as a child broke me to my experience as a man that remade me. A Broken Man's Guide to Intimacy is the subtitle. We can experience the worst things and use them as motivation to become the best that you can be. So again, thank you for everybody again for continuing this journey with me. If you get a chance, take a look at the book. If you get a possibility to, just open your mind, not to the rules and regulations of what a relationship should be, but just hearing a little bit more about the important parts of it and building something that's sustainable to last the test of time instead of trying to relive your life over and over because you're not finding that equivalent to you. Good luck in your search. Congrats to those who found them. But whether you have or haven't, the work never stops, and that's the fun part of a relationship. You don't do more because the other person expects you to. You do it more because you expect yourself to. Holla at your boy. Hollywood out.